Welcome to the Mentor Minutes podcast, a board gaming podcast, and I am Jared, one of your hosts, and with me is...
Hi, I'm Steven.
And he's joined us now since Jay's left the podcast for personal reasons and time commitments and whatnot, and so today we're going to have our own Just the Two of Us podcast, which may be much like this for quite a bit, so I hope you enjoy it. And today, we just got back from a big convention out in Charlotte, North
Tantrum
Carolina.
Con.
Tantrum Con 2022.
Yeah.
Boom.
It was pretty great.
Yeah. Which was fun. We got to see a lot of people, a lot of cool friends, a lot of people you've probably heard of, like Grant Lyons and Gnarly Carly, Nick and Sarah Traeger from Meeple's on Board, or Meeple's on the Ground, something like that. Sorry, forgive me. We've met Chris from Charity Board Gamer, and of course, a lot of the publishers we got to talk to, which was great. So,
Oh, yeah. A lot of those.
A lot of things. Hundreds of people were there. It was quite the convention. What did you think of it?
Oh, I thought it was a lot of fun. It was my first time going to a convention in Charlotte, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it had a big feel to being as small as it was. Like, there was a lot of publishers there. There's a lot of like personalities there, despite the fact that it felt otherwise like a really small and kind of intimate gathering, which was cool. It had a little bit of a best of both worlds, where you saw a lot of like cool booths while also being able to recognize all the people that were there. A lot of fun.
I do get that same sense that it felt like a small con with a ton of people.
Yeah.
It sounds weird to say, but there weren't like a whole ton of like vendors or promoters, and what they did have, they kind of allocated to one section of one room, so it always just felt like you were always there to see the same people, and like you're always walking by the same tables. It didn't really feel like you were sprawling out too far. It was very kind of condensed into one smallish area at the Hilton Hotel. And actually, I was able to, kind of set up a table for the Meeple Mentor channel to try to raise some brand awareness and pass out flyers and whatnot. Had a banner set up and everything.
It was great. I got to sit at the table, and I really felt like I was part of the channel, where before this point, I kind of felt like I was a guest star. This is number 2, second Mentor Minute, so I am part of the channel now, officially.
And if you missed his introduction episode, that was 2 episodes ago, where we talked about expansions, good and bad, and why, with Jay. And it was the 3 of us talking. So now this is your 2nd episode on the podcast, and the first time without Jay.
Yep. We're going to miss him.
Yeah, totally. The previous episode, it was just me. It was an interview. If you're interested to catch up on that, that was the designers of Into Deep, Josh Capel and Daryl Chow. And as of this recording, actually we're recording on a Tuesday, so this is the day that the tutorial has come out on the channel for their game Into Deep. And I'm really happy that they those 2 videos kind of came out side by side.
Yeah.
Kind of just synergistic that way.
I really enjoyed the interview, and I thought the game looks pretty awesome, and I'm really excited to try it. I'll have to watch the video first because I still don't know how to play. But
Yeah, it's a fun game, and it has a lot of player interaction and how you do it. And although it is kind of a Euro, but the way that you manipulate the pieces on the board and how you can affect other players is just it kind of swings around a lot. But it's fun. You kind of have to position things to complete cards, and everyone's doing that with the same pieces.
Yeah, it sounds pretty awesome.
It's pretty sweet, and I like the theme.
Yeah. All right. So, do you want to talk about like what was your kind of like the high points of the conference? Like what kind of stuck out to you as something that maybe you hadn't seen before, or that you got to try for the first time? Maybe some of the publishers that really stuck out to you. So I got to demo a few games from several publishers. Some of them I'm going to forget the names, but like for instance, there was a demo of Chai, the tea game. I think it's just Chai. It's beautiful looking. I mean, it's very bright, very colorful. All the cards that come out are really nice. But not only does it kind of match the theme and how the art is, but it's also like made in a way that it's very easy to see what everything is, what every piece is, and it just kind of helps you learn the game very quickly. And I enjoyed playing that. There's a mini game in that game
where you're collecting some of the resources or the types of tea that you want on this like sliding double layered board in the center of the table. And so when you choose that action, you can choose, any grouping of tiles that match, and you only pay the cost of the one in the more expensive column. And so like the first column of the thing that slides into is just $1, and then like the next two are $2, and then the next three are $3.
Yeah.
And so if you had like 3 in the first column, then like another 2 in the second column, you'd get all 5 of those for paying $2.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty sweet that way.
So that builds up, I guess, as someone doesn't buy them? Or...
Well, the other interesting thing is you kind of look at it and you go, okay, well, that's lined up, so I'll take it. But if you're more clever, you can take one that you don't necessarily want for $1 just to slide the row.
Oh, yeah.
And
okay.
once the row slides, now you have some potentially better options on the tiles that you actually want, and maybe cheaper and maybe more of them.
Right.
And that's what I mean by like, it's kind of a mini game on how you want to like push these tiles out.
That's cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. You are limited to, I think, 10 or 12 like tea types or tea tiles on your board at a time, and then you got to start using them. But it's really cool. I enjoyed that a lot. I also got to meet up with Kurt, the owner of the Smirk and Dagger games, and they were out there for quite a while with several games on demo. I really enjoyed playing Shobu, which I know it's been out for a while, but I just haven't had a chance to play it. Have you played this?
No,
yet?
I haven't actually. I didn't play it at the conference either, or the convention.
Right, it's fantastic. I got a copy, and I'm filming an unboxing, so that'll be on the channel as well, probably by the time you see this. And it's an abstract game, and it's a 2-player only. You've got like 2 boards, and well, there's 4 boards, 2 on your side, 2 on their side, just separated by a rope on the table.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So on each of these boards, on your side of that board, there's 4 of your color stones, and then 4 on the other side of their color stones.
Mm-hmm.
And the object is to get all 4 stones one players off of any one board. So it's kind of 4 games going on at once.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And the way that you do it, you do 2 moves every turn. Your first move has to be on one of the boards on your side, using your piece. And you can go up to 2. That first move, you're not allowed to push any rocks, though. It's only the second move that you're allowed to push things, but your second move has to be on an opposite colored board.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
on your side, there's a white and dark, or light and dark, and then the other side as well, there's a light and dark. So if I moved up 2 on a stone on my light board on my side, then either this dark board or that dark board across the rope, I have to move the same movement on any of my pieces.
Okay.
So a move 2 upwards.
That sounds complicated.
So you kind of have to think of like positioning some of the ones near you to be able to push ones in the right places.
Yeah.
On other boards.
Oh man, that does sound like a lot of fun.
It's really cool. It really only plays 10 or 15 minutes long, but it's so strategic and really thinky. But even for what it is, like, I think it's just fantastic blend of easy to learn, strategic to play, not a lot of time to actually play it. So you might do like bouts and matches of this, kind of like our old favorite TAC.
I was about to ask, you think it's more or less strategic than TAC?
A little less than TAC, but maybe in that way it's more accessible. I'm not sure. I mean, there are 4 separated boards, so there is that.
Right.
What did you think of TAC? I know you played that quite a bit.
So I played it quite a bit. Our friend Errol brought the TAC board, and he is a TAC genius, I guess. Either that or we're terrible.
He's internationally ranked.
Okay, so yeah, he's a TAC genius. On top of that, we're both pretty terrible. I'd only played...
Come on, don't throw me under the bus like that.
We are not great.
I'm not an expert, but I'm not terrible.
Not an expert. Fine.
Speak for yourself.
Not an expert. I almost beat you one time.
Yeah,
so
well, I won every time we've played.
I don't want to talk about it. Anyway.
This is a talking podcast.
Oh, fine.
People want to know. They want to hear.
So, yeah, I got to learn a lot from him. I've only played once or twice before that, one of the which I played against his daughter and lost. So
she's 8 years old.
She's really good for an 8-year-old. But that aside, I learned a lot that I hadn't known before. And it was...
Sorry.
Can we cut that?
No way.
All right.
This is it. I'm just laughing.
All right, so
I wonder if she remembers. If I could bring her in, she'll be like, "Oh, you're the guy that I beat in tag."
we're gonna film a rematch. We're gonna film it here on this channel. Stay tuned. It's gonna happen. I'm going to beat a little girl at a board game.
I thought you were talking about me.
Well, I'm gonna build up to you. Obviously, I have to start at the bottom. No offense, she's pretty great actually.
Wow.
And one day I'll beat Errol. But no, so I learned a lot this time. I've only played it a few times before, and I think it really opened the door to the amount of strategy there was to it, because I saw there was some before, but it really took playing with someone who really knew what they were doing to see that like this is wide open. Like, you can do so much.
Yeah. So for those listeners who don't know what TAC is, can you explain what the game is?
Yeah, so TAC is a board game that is based off of a board game that was written into a book. The book series is called King Killer Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss, and it is a really simple game, one-on-one, head-to-head on a chess-like board.
Mm-hmm.
I guess more like Go, because you can play your pieces at any place. But basically, you just take turns placing your pieces, and you have to create a unbroken road, either horizontally or diagonally, from one edge to the other with your pieces.
One of my friends who played it described it as reverse checkers, because you don't start with any pieces on the board.
Yeah, okay.
So you're slowly filling up the checkerboard,
Right.
and then you start moving them.
I can see that. I think the one thing that really makes it interesting, well, two things. One is that you can actually take your piece that's already on the board and hop it onto another person's piece, effectively taking control of their piece as well. And later you can knock that whole stack down in one direction. And also you can put your piece up on its side to build walls. And that means that no one can put their piece on top of a wall. Like, there's a lot of different little variations that really make it an interesting and exciting game, and really ripe for strategy. And yeah. I am tempted to go on the website and like try. I think it's playtac.com or something like that.
I think so.
Though I'm really worried I'm going to do terribly at it.
Yeah, you'll get your butt handed to you for a while.
Yeah, but c'est la vie, I guess.
I'm thinking I want to ask Errol to try to set up like a TAC tournament officially.
Yeah.
At one of the next conventions that could be possible.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, get a lot of people on board.
I think that would be fantastic. It's a lot of fun. So Shobu, TAC, two really great abstract games that we were able to play at the con.
Yep.
Smirk and Dagger, I also played the Night Cage, which is like a horror co-op game.
Yeah.
It's one that when it's set up, you're drawn to look at what it is. There's it's kind of like
it had a tower with the candle on it, right? That looked really cool.
There's a candle tower that you build that holds the various tiles that you're going to draw. And basically when you move, your candle, which is your piece, illuminates tiles orthogonally adjacent to it. And then anything that you leave, that is no longer adjacent, then gets removed from the board.
That reminds me of Tainted Grail a little bit. Would you call it similar to that?
Yes and no, I think, because in Tainted Grail, the map doesn't ever go away. Like, you just uncover it as you move. But it's still that dark theme. Okay,
so it doesn't leave the board, right? So is that what the difference is?
In Night Cage, it leaves the board.
Oh, okay.
And the tiles are like 1.5 inches,
Right.
And so mostly they're path tiles, and you're trying to build paths to each other and to build or to find the tiles that have keys. You're trying to collect a key for each player, but you can only ever hold one at a time. So you got to kind of go with someone to help them, but you can't share a tile space either.
Oh.
And so that also complicates things.
Yeah, it sounds complicated.
Then once everyone's holding a key, you have to then reveal a gate and make it there with all 4 of you on there before you run out of tiles and or ways to actually win.
So difficulty rating, what would you count it as? I know co-op games can sometimes be really difficult. Is that one that you would say is...
I mean, it's not as difficult as like a Spirit Island might be. In a different way, it's difficult. Mostly because your strategy is sort of random at first.
Yeah.
And then as you start seeing things that you need, then the planning starts. And then it's like, oh, well, do we have enough time, or do we want to chance losing this gate and drawing another one that we might get later? Because there's a certain number
Right.
There's only 4 gates. There's only 6 key tiles, something like that. And so if you let it go away without someone being able to use it to get the key, then you're that much closer to losing.
So your strategy kind of has to adapt versus like for whatever comes out on the board.
Exactly. So it's kind of that emergent strategy, and definitely the co-op comes into play a lot, because you're like, well, I need you to stay still because we need that road there, or we need this gate here. But that's not all. There's monsters in the game. So a lot of those tiles that you draw out are monsters, and if you trigger them to attack you, you basically take 3 tiles off the stack and discard them out of the game.
Do you get to see what they are?
Yes.
Okay, so you can see if like you lose.
You can
a gate.
see like how close you are to losing, because that, of course, might actually make you lose.
Right.
If it took out like one of the things you need. Right. So it can be very harsh of a penalty. But it's a lot of fun.
You have that game. You got that game too,
I do,
right?
Yep. And I did an unboxing for that as well.
Oh, nice. I'll have to watch that. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, we'll have to try it out.
Yeah.
I liked it. They have another game that's coming to Kickstarter that I really liked called Behexed. And it's one where it's a card game where you are wizards throwing a hex at each other. And so each round, someone starts by giving one player of their choice like the hex token, meaning if they can't pass it along, they're going to get blown up in the face and lose points and stuff. So it's kind of like a magical hot potato that you keep building stronger and
that's interesting.
Like adding boosts to it and making it harder. And I told the designer, I was like, it's like a hot potato if you kept heating it up and then hitting it with nails and then threw it in hot sauce.
All right.
And then started throwing it.
And just started throwing it around.
Yes. So the kind of cards you'll play, there's some static effects like a shield. There's like a card where it's like, if I send it to you, you can't immediately send it back to me. But most of the cards are, you play it and it'll shift it left, shift it right, across the table, that sort of thing.
So it sounds like that's something that would work best in like a group.
Yeah, I think 4 was kind of ideal.
Okay.
4 players. I'm not sure what the lowest other than 2 would be, but on the start of your turn, and by turn, I mean, if the hex has come to you, it's on you. So when that happens, you're allowed to buy 1 card from the 4 face-up decks in the center, but it spends some of your cards from your hand to do that, like a deck builder.
Oh, okay.
All right, so there's some deck building involved. And then you're allowed to play 1 card to try to, get rid of it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh, I like it.
It's fun. I really like it. I hope to see more from this. It's really neat. It's called Behexed.
Behexed. And that is, the Kickstarter is out right now, or is it already funded?
Yeah, I think he said later this week. So
nice.
Yeah, you might want to look for it.
Cool. All right.
What were some notable games or experiences you thought during that Tantrum Con?
Well, I definitely have. Super Slam or Super Show.
Super Show.
This was kind of fun, and we got to see the creators of this game, and I think that was probably one of my highlights, just because they were so much fun to play with.
They were very entertaining folks.
Yeah, so like this, if you don't know, is a...
I need to get their number just to be a hype man for my life.
Oh, I know. These
guys are like so energetic and like full of life.
Yeah, and I think that was my favorite part, is that like, so this is a wrestling game. It could be 1v1, it could be 1 versus many or group battles.
They were saying like the largest game they saw was like 120 people.
That sounds like a little bit much to me, but
does that seem like a little much?
A little much. I would scale it back to at least half of that.
I don't know if they'll ever beat that number.
I probably not. But I thought that was really interesting, in that like you can have like group fights or anything like that, and also it's a wrestling game, and the guys really knew how to sell it as a wrestling game, and like
they did.
You would hit them with a punch and they'd be like, yeah. It was just a lot of fun to watch.
They're like kind of storytelling, role playing what's going on, and they had their own wrestling names, and they're like, just call me by my wrestling name and stuff.
Like, I wish I'd had a wrestling name going into it. I think
I'd need more time to think about it. I don't know.
I don't have one.
So we actually did a full video with these guys, and it was Steven and I tag teamed against 2 of their guys, and we filmed this, so be on the lookout for that video as well.
Yep.
It's gonna be crazy. And when you see it, you'll see what I mean about how energetic these guys were.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the audio I think peaks a little bit because of how much screaming was involved.
We originally didn't plan on doing it, but we met these guys and saw like how awesome their energy was, and we knew we had to film
this is the kind of thing you want to see from a con.
Yeah.
So
we actually shot the audio on my phone. It was just sitting like here on the table, and so yeah, the audio might not be great, but hopefully the point still comes across.
It's not perfect, but it is enough that you can hear everybody.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
good.
I've already listened to a little bit of it and combined it with the video that another friend took on her iPhone.
iPhone.
Not iPod.
It's an iPhone.
Yep. And so we'll release that as well and let you guys see how that worked out. It's just a card game. I mean, it's just a card game, but it can be so much.
And it's a card game where you can build your own personal deck. You can't necessarily buy cards to make it like a super strong, but like you can mix and match cards to play the way you want to play.
Yeah,
and they're constantly coming out with new decks.
It's not along the lines of Magic though.
No,
it's like you have like a pretty solid pre-constructed deck for a character.
Yeah, like there's this.
You like role play as that character.
Yeah, he'll pop it on the screen. Bing, right here.
Okay.
You'll edit Bing. You'll edit the.
Thing, yeah, right? I'll put a Bing out there.
Thanks, cool.
Yeah.
Bing. All right.
This is gonna be fun.
Yeah, I really like whenever I add a Bing. That means you have to edit more things.
Please stop. All right. So that was a pretty good time. We did play probably the longest game of Anachrony ever recorded.
Oh my god, yeah. It was a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. I love the idea of Anachrony.
It doesn't normally take that long.
Good.
I promise you.
But that was with most of the expansions, right?
There was several of the major expansions involved, and it was 4 players, and we kept taking a lot of breaks for a lot of various reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. At a con, you're stopping for dinner, stopping to make a phone call, stopping to talk to people. Yeah. And people kept coming up to the table a lot because since we had a table set up, people would be like, "Oh, you're with the Meeple Mentor channel. Yeah. I need you to stamp my scavenger hunt sheet, which was part of the grab bag that was given to all the participants of the con." And you try to get, collect stamps from all the vendors. Mm-hmm. But I never sat at the table, so they literally had to scavenger hunt for me and find me, which was kind of cool.
It was embarrassing whenever I had to sit at the table and didn't have the stamp, because they come up and be like, "Stamp my thing," and I'm like, "Oh, I don't have."
Yeah, you don't even have it. Wow. I apologize.
Yeah. And also, I'm pretty sure I had like 3 or 4 energy drinks and like 2 or 3 of these, so we had to stop every like 10 minutes for me to use the bathroom.
Yeah. So all that to say, I started teaching at 10:30, and we probably stopped playing at 10:30.
You started setting up at 10:30. You didn't start teaching. You started setting up at 10:30. You didn't start teaching until about 11 or 11:15.
Fair enough. 11:15 started teaching, and then we ended at like 10:30 at night.
Right. Yeah.
Solid 12 hours of my day.
It was a monster.
I love that game though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like my favorite game, but it's way up there for me.
It's not your favorite game?
Nope.
But you have the
I have a tattoo, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
I have an Anachrony tattoo on my leg.
I didn't want to be the first to disclose that if you hadn't.
I think
already.
I've discussed it.
Okay.
I mean, I don't care.
I feel like that makes it one of your favorite games if you have a tattoo of it.
Well, sort of. Like, I really like it.
Do you have an Everdell tattoo?
No. Because what would I put on my body that's Everdell? Like, other than just written out Everdell?
Maybe a Mr. Squirrel or something?
I don't know. But I like the design that is on the box of Anachrony.
Yeah.
And it's a cool, like,
that symbol is awesome.
It's like a geometric shape. So for me, as far as a tattoo, if someone doesn't know what Anachrony is, they'll just think that's a cool looking geometric tattoo.
Yeah.
If they do know what it is, then they'll say, "Oh, that's awesome. That's a board game like tattoo."
So put Everdell tattoo in the comments. If it's good enough, we'll get it on him. Maybe his other leg.
Uh-huh. But you have to have a really good idea for what it will be.
Yeah, not just Mr. Squirrel. There's a Mr. Squirrel in the game, right?
I don't think it's Mr. Squirrel. I think it's like the husband.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Like the mouse and something.
It's been a year or 2 since I played that game.
Oh, too long.
Well, let's play it.
We got to play it.
Let's get it going.
All right, podcast is over. We're going to take a little break and play Everdell.
All right. All right.
And we're back.
Woo! That was a long game.
Everdell's so good, don't you
Yeah,
think?
that was a great game.
Man, I can't believe I beat you by 40 points. So sweet.
That's not necessarily
All right.
true.
Well, I mean, you brought up my tattoo. I thought I'd mention our score.
Okay. All right. I see how it is. Anyway.
So, Tantrum Con, that was a full 3 days. Well, you could get there Thursday night and start playing. I got there I got there Thursday night, but didn't show up till Friday morning.
Yeah.
Wanted to get a good start, good night's rest, and Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Then we left back out, drove, and yeah, it was awesome. We had a good time.
I have not mentioned yet Robo Rally. I feel like that is worth mentioning.
That's a big one.
Robo Rally, definitely one of my favorite games. I own the original version with the die-cast pieces. I own the Avalon Hill version with the plastic pieces and still the good cards.
Yeah.
But our friend Errol already mentioned the Tack Master. Remember him from earlier on in the episode before we took a break. He has all 3 versions,
yes,
right? And the
all 3.
expansion.
And several expansions.
And
there's the Armed and Dangerous, and then there's also a radioactive thing, which I think is just new boards.
Yeah.
And there might be one other thing.
And so what he does is he kit bashes them. All 3 of the versions, all the best elements of all 3 of the versions together in one board game. And it was honestly my favorite way to play.
Yeah, it's like a Frankenstein version of Robo Rally that is pretty sweet.
I liked that in his version, everyone had their own deck. So it was a deck builder in a sense that you can get spam cards or bad cards put into your deck, which I guess it's a negative deck builder.
It's a bad deck builder.
But I like that you had your own cards because that was my least favorite part of Robo Rally.
Getting hosed when you get 9 cards that are all rotate or something.
Well, no, I mean, that, yes,
that's
definitely.
what I hated.
But I hate that, like, every other round you had to shuffle like this gigantic
cards.
And like that was just too much shuffling.
Totally agree. And at least this way, everyone can do their own shuffling when needed.
Right, and
you
it's
don't
only
necessarily have to shuffle every turn.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think it was every other turn-ish for me, and it was only a small, manageable amount of cards,
Very
so
manageable.
like it wasn't that big of a deal.
Really good change to the core game if you can implement that.
Yeah, and on top of that, he implemented a rule. I don't know if it's an actual rule or not.
The option cards.
The option cards.
Yeah.
So every time you hit a checkpoint, the person to your left got to choose from a list of option cards which one to give you.
Well, it was a shuffled stack that were created, like a stack of option cards, enough for every player for each checkpoint.
Yeah.
And so if you get to the first checkpoint, that person to your left grabs that deck for that checkpoint,
right,
and then chooses one for you. So if you are furthest ahead and you hit the checkpoints first, you will have the most options available, literally.
Yeah, right.
But it's always an opponent that's going to be choosing it for you.
So they're probably going to choose a lesser good one. And it's the last person who gets the checkpoint who's obviously going to get the best one that no one wanted to give their opponent.
So I think it's a nice way to sort of make up for people who are trailing behind.
Yeah.
Because you know that you're, like you said, if you're the last one, you're likely to get the best card.
Yeah. And we played with Gnarly Carly, and she kind of like in the beginning was lagging behind a little bit. And so like I gave her one of the options that was pretty damn good. And I think that really helped her kind of pull ahead and just leave us all in the dust. She didn't win. I guess Errol won. Oh,
Errol always wins.
But she came in a close second.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a very exciting game. We played 7 players into 2 a.m. on Friday night, Saturday night. Friday night?
It was Friday night because I was hungover Saturday because of it.
It was Friday night. Some of us were drinking, which
some of us
happens. It was fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's for the most part kind of what went on at Tantrum Con. But I think people would probably want to know, what is your favorite game that you got to play, whether it's the first time or you've played it many times. What was your favorite game you played over the weekend? So
mine, I would have to say, is maybe a tie for favorite, because I really enjoyed Anachrony. I really enjoyed Robo Rally, obviously, but I would say tied for my favorite that I haven't mentioned yet is Gizmo. First time I've actually played Gizmo.
Gizmos?
Gizmos. Sorry.
It's like the marbles?
The marbles, right. Yeah. I really liked the marbles. That was great. If you have marbles in a game, I'm obviously down. But
I have a marble game.
Which game?
It's called On the Rocks.
Oh, I love On the Rocks. Yeah. It's got marbles. It's great. Yeah. Like, that's really all you need for me to enjoy a game.
It's amazing.
But no, back to Gizmos. It felt like a Splendor, but instead of just like getting currency to get more currency, like each individual card had its own like cool effect that it did, and you could really build a a machine that's going to help you win the game. And I really had a lot of fun playing it.
Yeah, it's a total engine builder,
Yeah.
combo builder. And
Right.
yeah, it's awesome. It's a lot of fun.
So I enjoyed that one.
For me, I always enjoy a good game of Nemesis. And that was like the very first game I played at the con on Friday.
I'm really upset I missed that.
You were like 10 minutes too late or something.
I showed up right as the table was full.
Yeah, we of course always get a full table of Nemesis at a con. People look at it and they're like, ooh, let me play. I've always wanted to, or I love it, or what have you. So of course, 5-player game. I was the only person who played it. So I taught it to 4 people. No problem there. I've done it many times. It's we really everybody, I think it was going a little long, and near the end some of the players that had subterfuge type goals pretty much made it known who they were going to target.
Really?
Yeah, because they're like, all right, we're going to blow this ship up and I'm getting out and you're not. Like that happened.
I do enjoy a good, like, I'm about to screw you over right now.
And I think I was one of the first that actually made it blatant. Like it was clear that obviously someone had turned on the generator, the self-destruct.
Yeah, right.
And so it was starting to count down. I'm like, okay, I like that because one of my goals is to either be the only survivor or like player 4 had to die.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll bet I can make him die with the ship exploding, but I have to make sure I get into an escape pod, right? Because that's the only way. If the ship's going, I can't really stop it myself.
Yeah, of course.
And it was clear that he wanted it to explode, so I'm not going to deal with that.
Did he want to die, or did he have to survive too? Oh, you have to survive.
You have to survive. You have to survive to win.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Regardless of what happens, like even if you get dealt the card that says player 3 and your player 3 has to die, like you can't win. Like that's why those have an or.
Oh, okay.
Because
right.
if it's dealt to you, right, then what do you do? Because you can't win. So anyway, right after that generator thing happened, and we had been killing a ton of these aliens on board, and it's basically like Aliens the board game but without the IP.
Yeah.
And so as you create noise, you draw aliens out. Sometimes they surprise attack you depending on how many cards you have in your hand to sort of stop the attack. They draw a card for an attack, and if it's got its icon that matches the life cycle phase that the alien is, like because there's adults, there's a larva, there's a creeper, there's a breeder, and then there's the queen. The queen did come out, and
she came out pretty early. I came back to the table and she was out like...
I think we had 3 larvae initially, and then the very next thing was the queen.
Yeah. Okay, that's scary.
Oh, yeah. And the funny part was it kept chasing player 4, who I was targeting. And so there was a part later during the game where he kept trying to escape a room that had either an adult alien or the queen, and I would play an interruption card to make it so that he couldn't move or he couldn't get out, right? And so that was the point where everyone started to be like, oh, like you basically outed yourself as you're targeting this person, which became a little silly because then the player who set the generator decided if he had an interrupt card too, he would play it on top to also stop him for his second move as your second action. And so we were almost tag teaming without talking about it, just because I think he was enjoying that concept of like, let's just fuck this guy up.
I do love that aspect of the game. Like, I'm not usually one for like take that type games.
Yeah.
But I do love the aspect of Nemesis where like you're kind of working together, but at the same time you're not. Like there's social deception.
I think if you don't play with the co-op only objectives, it's really not a cooperative. Because you're really never able to trust.
You have to play like it's a cooperative, though.
You have to pretend that it is.
You have to pretend that it's that's my favorite part, is you're pretending it's cooperative when it's not.
And I guess that's why it's semi-cooperative.
Yeah.
But that's the truth of it, is it's really not cooperative unless you figure out who is on your side.
Yeah.
Like who wants the same things as you. Sometimes nobody.
Yeah.
So in the end, the game was over, but so me and one other player, Holly, who was also there, like representing the channel. So she and I were the only ones to escape in an escape pod before the ship blew up and everyone else died. It was amazing.
Wow. So you're the only 2
winners.
Wow.
And I had no...
What was her challenge? What did she have to do to win?
Kill player 3.
Oh.
So we were both targeting different players.
And you just killed them. Wow.
And they all died on the ship. And I didn't have any contamination cards, so I was fine. And she didn't either, so she was fine.
I forgot about the contamination cards.
Yeah, so if you get contaminated during the game, it's kind of those spam cards that clog up your deck. And some of them, they've got those like red dotted patterns on them where you can only read the text when it's put into a reader. And so you don't really know if you're infected until you get a chance to scan them. At the end of the game, you scan all of them in your deck. And if any one says that you're infected, you do one final check. All right, you shuffle your deck and you draw 3 cards. And if any one is a contamination card, regardless of its status, you're dead.
I think that's probably one of the most suspenseful and like intense moments of
I have
games.
lost so many times because of that 3-card pull.
Yeah, like right at the end, you think like you escaped, you survived.
You did everything you were supposed to. You achieved your objective, and whether it was good or bad, you did it. You lived. You got out, whether it was an escape pod or hibernation, and then you draw on a contamination card, and you're chest bursting into death.
Which sounds kind of terrible when you put it like that, but it's so like. Well, it's suspenseful.
It's an experiential game. It's a thematic experience.
That's true. Even if you don't win, I think it's fun. I've never had a bad Nemesis experience.
It's always fun. Like it's a plus if you win. I don't often win. I have won several times, but I've also played it a bunch. It's just a game you want to play because of the experience. And I love teaching it to people because like new people like they don't know what to expect.
Right.
And that also adds to the excitement.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my favorite.
I did mention Great Wall.
The Great Wall is fantastic.
But I did enjoy that game as well.
That's a really solid like Euro with a lot of player interaction. That is also from Awakened Realms, who made Nemesis. So,
oh, is it?
Oh yeah, same developer.
I didn't know that.
Well, I think I think the actual game designer is different, but Awakened Realms made it.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I do really like the art style and everything. So whoever the designer is, great job.
It's solid. I really like it. That was my second time playing. And I'm really looking forward to every time I play this. It's really cool. So that's enough for Tantrum Con. We'll be back probably next year. I know I will.
Oh, absolutely.
And Holly was super excited. She's like, I loved this. She's like, I'm coming back. And I'm like, what'd you think of Anachrony? Because we kind of put you through a 10-hour game or something.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, I actually really liked Anachrony.
She seemed like she was really getting into it.
Yeah,
so that's cool.
She was.
Nice.
You know, the only game she didn't like was Subatomic.
Oh, I know. So I had the responsibility of teaching Subatomic. It's a deck builder game.
Pretty straightforward deck builder.
Yeah, but I guess Holly didn't know.
She had never played one.
And I didn't realize that. So I was just like, yeah, it's a deck builder game. And these are the ways that it's different from a normal deck builder game. And so I did a really subpar job teaching it, hence why I'm not the teacher on this channel.
Wow.
I made it a very miserable experience for her, and I still regret that to this day, 4 days later.
And I should say why you were teaching this, because while I was finishing up a game, he had been spending the last 45 minutes reading the rule book
and setting it up
to Subatomic. It was a play-to-win game. And he had set it up, he'd read the rules, and I came to sit down, and he's like, all right, I'm ready to teach this. And I'm like, why? I already know how to play. And like, he just had this really sad and dejected look on his face. Like, what? I wanted to teach it.
Yeah, it was time wasted, and it was really sad. But, I ended up teaching it, and I feel like I did a good job, but I didn't.
No, not quite. But,
I knew exactly how to play the game from the way I taught it.
Yes.
Like, looking back at the way I taught it, if I were teaching it to myself, I think I would have done a great job. Unfortunately, you don't teach to yourself, and I think that's something I have to learn.
So one general rule of when I teach games is you're teaching to the player at the table who has the least amount of experience.
That makes sense.
That's the only person you're teaching to.
Right. Yeah.
Of course, you're talking to everybody, but like that's how you need to teach this game.
Well, it's I guess over teaching versus under teaching.
Right.
It's better to err on the side of over teaching.
So like when I'm playing with all my gaming buddies and we've played hundreds of games together, there's a lot that I can kind of skip over or say very quickly because I know they get it. But if I'm playing with someone new to gaming or who has never played a deck builder, I want to know that because that's something I need to spend more time on to make sure that they follow that basic concept if they're unfamiliar with it. And unfortunately, I did not tell them that Holly had never played it, and she never told them that she had never played it.
Well, it's not your responsibility, right? Like that's something that you learn that now, knowing that I'm going to learn.
And it'll make you a better teacher for it because now you're going to think about that and remember it every time. And you'll say, all right, who here is familiar with deck building? And that's your first question.
Yeah.
Boom. now you're a better teacher.
Cool.
So very memorable, very, very good con, a lot of good fun. I'm glad I did it, and we'll be back next time. So thank you, Tantrum House, for hosting that.
Yeah.
And of course for letting us have a table and setting up banners and stuff like that. That was fun.
That was great.
Now in the next segment of our podcast, Steven has been begging me, nay, like he bribing me to play this game called Call to Adventure, the Stormlight Archives.
The Stormlight Archive. So anyone unfamiliar with this game, this is a game based off of a book series by Brandon Sanderson called the Stormlight Archive. It's actually a call to adventure game, so it's kind of like, the call to adventure game is a specific type of card procurement game, and this is the Stormlight Archive version. It has all the Stormlight Archive characters. It's crafted around that kind of story.
And is it just one book or several books?
So right now there are 4 books that are out. It's going to expand into a 10-book series.
Wow.
Though it's part of a larger Cosmere group of series that has another trilogy, and then it has a second trilogy along with that first trilogy, 2 standalone books. Like it's a pretty large.
It's got its whole universe and IP out there.
Yeah. Called the Cosmere. And I was really excited to do this. I think the way that I wanted to do it is I'm a huge Cosmere fanboy. I thought this was a good time to do it now because Sanderson just came out with some news today. Actually, it was a YouTube video earlier today.
As of filming today, yeah.
Personally, I found it to be very shocking. Thoughts to the company and Sanderson. I've been thinking about them all day. I'm not going to go into that, so go to his channel, figure all that out. But back to this.
They had some big news that he doesn't want to share.
Yeah, no, I don't want to get into it. I stand by Sanderson no matter what he does, and that is fine. So just go find out more about it there. But I thought it was really important to
Google it.
Yeah. Google it. Go to his YouTube channel, Brandon Sanderson. So I like I said, I love the series.
So you're a big fan of the book series, and then you decided to buy the game because of it.
I got it for Christmas, actually.
Oh, okay.
And I haven't played it yet. But I wanted to see the difference of opinion from someone who loves the series versus someone who doesn't. And so we're both coming at this fresh. We're both learning how to play the game and playing it. And I wanted to see how different of an opinion we would have.
Sure. Well, and you kind of framed it as someone who doesn't like the books. I haven't read the books.
Right, sorry.
So I don't have an opinion either way.
Right. Neutral versus
Yeah, it's more of a
obsessed.
Unknown, just like playing a game where you're completely unfamiliar with the IP, and does the game itself stand up to, criticism without any knowledge?
I think to that end, I didn't give you too much background on the characters.
Not at all.
Maybe that was a bad idea because it is kind of a story game. Like you're trying to build a tableau where you have a character and you have like a backstory.
Yeah, they even call it your storyboard.
Yeah.
You have a board in front of you and it's like, that's your story. And you have 3 acts and 3 different like eras of your character.
Yeah, so you have an origin act, which is your first act, motivation, which is your second act, and your destiny, which is your third act.
Yeah.
And so you have to build your character traits and like challenges that you faced in each of those 3 acts to get a final score.
And for not being an RPG, like it does try to be by being like just a card game primarily.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
That's true.
Like it encourages you through the artwork and through the text and titles of the cards that you can obtain, and even some of the icons that represent certain things. All of these cards and how you gain them encourages you to tell your own story.
Yes, it's just enough information for you to build a story, but it's not so much that it's telling you, no, this is what your story is.
Yeah,
so
because you can choose which cards that you try to go for, because for that purpose, you're just trying to acquire certain cards for their icons or for their points or
for their story
abilities,
points,
right? And then when they get added to your character, then you kind of look at what it's saying and you're like, I see. So things are starting to come together maybe in sort of a storytelling way. And then maybe if you kind of prefer that play style, you might go for a card that just fits your character instead of just going for a card that maybe has maybe one more point than the others, or
Oh, I did that once.
yeah, or one icon that you'd prefer over another.
I decided I was going to be a scholar just because it
Yeah.
was a little bit more fitting with my character that I was building at the time.
So it does offer you that, even though it kind of abstracts out the story plot a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And I do appreciate that. I think a lot of these games give you like a moral compass you have to move towards, whereas this one, it let you kind of move around in the space. You could be a character with like regrets in your past and like negative things about you, and you can still in the end become a positive person,
Or start out decent and then take a turn for the dark side like my character did.
That's true.
Which was fun.
Well, you did have a troubled past, right? So like
Well,
you did
I had-
have a little bit of darkness in your past.
I had regrets and all sorts of things with, like, yeah.
Battle shock, I guess.
Yeah, it was sort of like battle worn veteran,
Right.
you know, and things went wrong. It was sort of my fault, and
Yeah.
these
right.
things happened. And so I kind of decided I would become like super, like the mastermind on whatever topic to come back and exact my revenge.
I was a scholar who found a secret organization at my university and became a spy who got in with a Radiant group.
Yeah. And none of these are canon stories. I don't know if any of that's in the book necessarily, but the way that the cards played out, that's how the story is unfolded.
Your story wasn't too far off of what you would expect.
Okay.
I think I probably played around a bit with mine more. For anyone who knows,
It's kind of like Anakin's story.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Was that your inspiration? Or did you
No, not
realize
at all.
that
I
now?
just thought
Okay.
about that.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a spy card, and then for anyone who knows the story, I became I became an Else caller, but I also served Nail, which is the herald who's related to the Skybreakers. So an Else caller and a Skybreaker, you can't be both. So like that really didn't work, and maybe if I was sticking strictly to the story, I shouldn't have picked that card.
Or if the game preferred you not to do that, they should have put in some mechanism that didn't allow you to.
That's true.
I guess I don't know if they cared that much, you know.
Well, so I think back to the paths, like each challenge that you can pick has two separate paths. And so I chose the path where it's like, oh, I'm going to hang out with Nail, versus the other path would have been the opposite. I would have I forget if it's fighting him or something like that, but you would have not been part of the Skybreakers. And I think if I was sticking close to the story, I would have done that path. But I really wanted that Radiant point.
Yeah.
And I didn't end up coming close to winning, so like that Radiant point didn't help me out much. In fact, Odium killed me.
Yeah. And then I destroyed him,
Yeah.
which was fun.
I think technically, I didn't mention this to you because I didn't want you to be sad. I think technically because I lost, we lost. Because we both had to beat Odium to win.
Really?
Yeah, but you still beat him entirely on your own, so I didn't want to like rain on your glory.
Oh, well, you know.
And you beat me in points pretty handily. So
Yes, I did. I think I rocked that game.
So what do you think? I guess Call to Adventure and Sanderson, Stormlight Archive overall, would you want to play it again?
Yeah, I would totally play it again. I think it was a lot of fun. I didn't really understand like what these characters are or anything like that, but the cards had some more generic type archetypes that didn't really seem to matter, that I didn't know anything about it.
Do you feel like not knowing about the series made you enjoy the game less, or you just feel like you could have enjoyed the game more if you would have known them?
I did not even realize that there was like a story possible behind all these cards. I just figured the cards were just like, you know, event type cards, and then, you know,
Yeah.
you kind of do one thing or the other, kind of a morality choice for the most part. So, I mean, the fact that they're based on an overarching story in a book it didn't really play into anything that I perceived or was wondering about.
That's fair.
So I think I don't think it detracted at all, but I will say if I had known like you had, then I'd probably make more connections and maybe appreciate it more. You know, so this game reminded me a little bit of my experience with Red Rising, which is a Stonemaier game, and also based on a book series that I'd never read.
Yeah.
And it's a card-based card kind of game with some elements thrown in, which is kind of like this. This is even more focused, I think, on the cards, but it has some different ways on how it plays out. They play very differently, but there's a lot of similarities there. I think this one, you don't really need to have any background with the story to enjoy the game.
So do you think with Red Rising it's better to have?
I think with Red Rising, you really need to appreciate what's going on in that to appreciate the game.
Sure. Okay.
And I feel like, as of this recording, I don't believe Red Rising has had as big a sales numbers as they were hoping for. It hasn't had the same hype as some of their other games, even Jamie Stegmaier's games. My thought on that is that it's semi-difficult to get a solid game after a book series, being true to that book and offering a really good gameplay experience outside of the story.
So, speaking of that, you know there is another Sanderson game out there based off of the Mistborn series called Mistborn House War, and I also own that, and I got it for Christmas. And guess what? The second in the series is going to be. Really excited about that game. And the only reason I picked this one first,
if you could see his smile, you guys. If you're listening to the audio, you're going to want to check the video for this one. He's like giddy like a Scooby-Doo. Oh my gosh.
Have I mentioned I really like Brandon Sanderson's books?
Oh my gosh. No, you haven't, because this is your second episode of the podcast. How often are we going to be hearing about Mr. Brandon Sanderson?
Well, I mean, every episode if we can.
Wow.
Just go to his YouTube channel to hear about his shocking news. Shocking.
It's just crazy. Can't believe it.
I can't.
Why would he do that?
Thoughts and prayers to him and his family. But yeah, so overall, I personally, from someone who has read the entire Stormlight multiple times, in fact, the entire Cosmere multiple times, the only thing I haven't read, the only thing I haven't got my hands on is Dragonsteel. For anyone,
it's a tough one to get.
Actually, it is. Yeah. It's not
expensive.
Never been printed before.
Expensive.
Yeah. So, I thought it was really interesting. The different story elements. I think that the game itself, Call to Adventure, I did enjoy it, but I would rate that probably like a 7. I would say the Stormlight Archive bumped it up to an 8.
Because of the theme that you like?
I really enjoyed the theme, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would probably...
I see this artwork and I have no idea who these people are.
Oh yeah, that's Zeth and Kaladin.
Yeah, it doesn't matter though.
They're pretty awesome. They're pretty badass. But yeah, so I think because of the theme, like you said, I think that it really helped me appreciate it more and get to a point where I'd really like playing it again.
So if someone's familiar with the property or the IP, then it's going to bump it up at least 1 point on your 10 scale rating.
At least 1 point, yes.
Yeah. For me, I would give this probably a 7.5. It's pretty good. I'd definitely play it again. Don't have to own it. I mean, I have a lot of games.
But, I own it, so you can play it.
Well, exactly. I'm just, for those out there who are, if you have like a huge collection, like 300 or more games, then you may not need a game like this in your collection. But if you don't, and you're building a collection, this will be a great one to have.
Yeah. I would say definitely a high priority if you are a Sanderson fan. It's one of those games that you would really enjoy.
Can't argue that.
But yeah, I would agree with you outside of that if you're not a fan. Or even, try the regular Call to Adventure if you like.
My understanding is it's very similar gameplay.
Right? Yes.
Call to Adventure.
So I haven't played Call to Adventure. But
various editions.
Right. I do. I've looked at the rules, and I'm pretty sure the only difference is like there's a radiant symbol that I think is replaced with something else. But yeah, it's basically kind of like a reskinning. They did the same thing with Kingkiller Chronicles too. We mentioned that earlier in the podcast as well. It's actually Name of the Wind specifically, which is book 1.
We stick around long enough. I think this podcast is going to turn into board games and books.
Yeah, maybe
it might. I'm hoping for board games and movies. So you tell me which one you prefer if you want to hear more about movies.
Put in the comments.
Books. Give me a like if you want books. Give me a subscribe if you want movies.
And list your favorite one. Wait, hang on. You did say, okay, so like is books.
Yeah, if you give me a like, you're voting for books.
Okay.
If you subscribe, then you're voting for movies.
Okay. Either way, put your favorite Cosmere book in the comments.
Or favorite movie.
Yeah.
So do we want to talk about what your favorite movie is?
Yeah, sure, I can mention that.
All right, let's talk.
You first.
My favorite movie? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Oh, I love so many movies.
You didn't come prepared?
I like a lot of movies. For example, like my favorite horror movie might be Alien or The Shining.
Okay, great classics.
Yep. Favorite movie, man. I like Psycho a lot. I like Jaws.
You like, okay, Psycho is your favorite movie, but you didn't list it in your horror movies?
Well, it's in my tops. Yeah.
Okay. But your top horror movie as well.
It's up there.
Okay.
Did I?
You didn't mention it as your favorite horror movie, but it is a horror movie that you mentioned as one of your favorites.
Well, it's one of my favorites. It's not the favorite.
Okay. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I'm just mentioning stuff, and it just kind of sounded like backwards, but no.
Yeah.
It's in my top movies.
Hitchcock's great. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, most of his stuff I really like.
Yeah.
Jaws, Jurassic Park, those are some favorites.
Huge box office hits in their time.
Absolutely, and game changers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
In the industry, I would also put on like City of God, or I really like Parasite and Old Boy. Those were all like foreign films, but I really like them. The way that they tell a story and cinematography is really interesting and really amazing.
Yeah. I would have to agree. A lot of those are pretty amazing. I think if I were to list a top 10, Old Boy and City of God probably would make it in.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Parasite yet.
Oof.
That came out right when the pandemic hit, and I just, for some reason...
Hulu now.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll catch up with it.
You should.
I do have a definitive top movie.
Okay. I want to hear about it.
It is Trainspotting.
Really?
Yeah.
With the baby on the wall?
With... That is the one scene that everyone mentions first. It's
a shocking scene.
It's shocking, and honestly, it didn't hold up that well.
No, it doesn't look real at all.
It doesn't. It looks like and that's kind of unfortunate. But I do think it's shocking, and I think
unfortunate.
It is
this
unfortunate.
Demon vomit baby doesn't look real.
I think one of the most impactful. That was, so for anyone not aware, he's suffering from withdrawal from heroin at the time, and he has these hallucinations and stuff. And I think the really most impactful scene of that,
the toilet scene,
that was good, but it wasn't my favorite. I really liked where he was. That was weird. That wasn't withdrawal though. Anyway, when he's in bed and he's sweating out the sickness,
right,
and he's like lost in the sheets. I got salmonella once when I was a kid, and went through several days of hallucinations and extremely high fever. I don't actually know if it was salmonella, but I had 104 temperature for like 4 days, and like was hallucinating and whatever. And it
related with that.
Yeah, I got lost in the sheets where it's like I don't know which way is up or down. Someone is talking to me that I don't even know if exists or not, and so it really it felt real in a way that you don't often see for something so abstract as that.
Fair.
But the whole movie, movie from beginning to end, Ewan McGregor was amazing in it, and
yes, he was.
Well, the whole group. Quite good. Yeah.
Cool. Well, we'll probably end up talking about more movies in future episodes.
I got lots of favorite movies.
You studied film, did you not?
I did. I have a film degree.
Yeah. I do not have a film degree, philosophy and business, but I did take a film class and a theater class.
Oh, nice.
So not quite a minor, but
yeah, you should be right up there. With...
Plus, and I worked at Blockbuster for like 5 years, so I've seen quite a bit.
That's worth it. That's worth a degree right there. I think.
That's a minor, right?
Yeah, I had that subscription service where it's like $10 a month. And you get to get as many DVDs.
It's just 2 at a time, just swap them out.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
I did that for a glorious summer one time.
For $10 a month, and just 2 movies out at a time from the whole collection. It's amazing.
Go to your local Blockbuster and check it out.
Filmed in 1995.
They still exist, right?
There's one.
Oh, cool.
There's only one in Bend, Oregon.
I hope they still do that thing.
I don't know. It's privately owned at this point, so they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I would imagine they probably don't make too much of their revenue based off of rentals anymore, though.
I don't know, but if they charge for people taking pictures in the store, they'd be making millions.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Because people go on trips just to see the last Blockbuster.
Really?
Yeah.
I enjoyed Blockbuster, but I don't know if I enjoyed it.
Did you know Jamie Stegmaier was also a Blockbuster employee for a while?
I did not know that. Yeah. Why would I know that?
It's just something I know. Something you remember when you learn it because you also, because I worked there as well.
Errol, Jamie Stegmaier, All the greats.
All the greats.
Wow.
What does that mean? So yeah, it was a really cool job. It was a lot of fun. You just got to hang out and like talk about movies all day.
That is pretty cool.
And it's like the perfect job.
Yeah, I would have enjoyed it.
Yeah, loved it. Didn't make a whole lot of money, but I loved it.
Yeah.
You know.
Well.
So that's the end of our podcast episode for today. And yeah, this has been a cool and interesting discussion, not only being able to share about our Tantrum Con experience, and hopefully we'll get to do more of those types of things and kind of relay how that went.
There's another con coming up soon, right?
There is, in a couple months.
We'll get to talk about that pretty soon as well.
We sure can. And it is Recon out in Kernersville, North Carolina during the Memorial Day weekend. So hopefully if you listen to this in time, you'll be able to register and maybe we'll get to see you and play a game with you.
I was talking about Southern Fried Gaming.
That's in Atlanta.
Yeah, but that's
in June or July?
July.
July.
So both of those.
Yep, May and then July. So yeah, we stagger these out every 2 months. I suppose.
If we can make it out to Atlanta.
Yeah, does anyone, by the way, want to sponsor a plane ticket for us to go round trip so that we can do these things?
Or gas money.
Or gas money.
Yeah.
We'll make a road trip. It'll be fun. But yeah, there are some limiting factors in what I can do, being a small channel that, you know, has a full-time job outside of the hobby of making videos. But that's why I rely on Steven, Mr. Moneybags.
I don't even own a small time channel.
Well, I don't know what that means. Like, own a small time channel?
I don't know what it means either. How much, like, 20,000 a year? Is that how much you make here? Is this channel?
Oh, very funny, very funny. Yeah.
$50?
$50.
Okay.
So, thank you guys for listening to our episode today, and stick around for another fun episode in the future. We will do it every other week, you know, as it goes. And I don't know how often we'll be talking about Brandon Sanderson or his games or his books, but I would place money that it will come up again.
I'm on the channel now, so you know it.
I can't stop him. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.